The Amazing Race Season 36 kicked off in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, and producer Charlie and I are talking about the exciting premiere. Let me just say, I really actually did enjoy this premiere, and I think this cast is very strong. I'm noticing both Amazing Race and Survivor this season's kooky cast.
Yeah, like we have a very diverse selection of people in this season.
Yes.
Very interesting group.
Yeah, they're fun to watch, and I actually feel like the frontrunners are like, I mean, the people who got first this time, which we'll get to later, I feel like that's not all that shocking, but like the people that were right on their tail, I was like, okay, so it's definitely not, I don't think it's easy to predict who's going to win.
Not at all.
Yet. So, okay, so first things first, we talked about this a little bit last week, but the starting line was in Mexico this year instead of the United States, which was interesting. When I had asked Phil last week kind of why he chose to do that, he said, he's like, why not? Why not just start somewhere else?
It's a change of scenery, a change of, because you said what, they've only done it twice? This is the second time now?
And then when they came back after COVID. So
yeah, so I mean, it definitely just makes it where it's a different change of scenery. It highlights a different country. Yeah. Besides what we all are used to, the U.S.
Yeah, absolutely. I enjoyed seeing this. So the first challenge they have is a detour. So it's pick 'em up or pin 'em down. So we'll start with pick 'em up. So essentially the teams in this detour have to more or less assemble kind of like a little mini horse that kids would like ride, I guess.
Yeah,
like,
it's basically, it was a rocking horse.
A rocking horse,
It had the wheels already attached when they picked it up so they could move it wherever they needed to go. And they had to take the wheels off once they got to their location. And they said these horses were heavy.
Yeah, it looked heavy too.
But and then, they at least had the wheels.
Yeah, and then to get like the next clue, they had to have a kid hop on and ride it, which I thought was
which cute.
Yes, yes. And so then the other option was pin him down. This one was kind of fun to watch as well. So this was essentially a bunch of wrestlers kind of in this like city center square area, and they had to watch the wrestlers match each other, and there was like multiple in the ring at once, and they had to, on the little tiles you see, match who was competing
own masks and everything.
Yes.
And I mean, there was only like 10 of them because they had like 5 pairs to match, but like just so much going on in that ring. It looked like more than 10.
I know. I feel like I would totally mess this up. One, my short-term memory is not good, and secondly, I'd be so overwhelmed by like everything happening at once. It would be a lot to kind of.
Well, you only had 40 or 45 seconds to look, and then you had to go and match it. And it's like, well, that's not much time to look at. I mean, you and your partner could split it and divide it, but still, that's a lot to try to like.
It is a lot to remember. Memory games are not for me. I think they're so hard. So then we move on to the Roadblock in this episode, which I actually thought was kind of fun to watch. I think I would do horrible at it, but it was fun. It was called Who's Feeling Loopy, and they essentially went to this like rodeo area, and they had to, was it like jump through?
It was. They had to have the hat and the bandana because one person forgot the bandana, got through it, and had to go back
again. Yeah.
But yeah, they had to basically jump through 7 lassos as they were like big lassos.
Yes.
I noticed that I think. We had like the double Dutch team that I think they showed it the best. You had to get like kind of close to the rope before you jump, and I think some people were probably starting too far back.
That's interesting.
So that was just my observation.
Yeah, yeah. And it's funny you bring up the double Dutch team because I do think it's interesting that it feels like throughout the season, based off kind of like your personal strengths when you come into this show, there's like 1 or 2 kind of different challenges that are like maybe suited to someone's strength, but for the most part, it really is anyone's game at all time. So I think that's kind of an interesting thing to point out there. So then as we move to the first pit stop of the season, we have Rod and Letitia, I think is how you say it. They get first place, which was super exciting. He's the one that's the former football player, played for the Chiefs for a little bit, and they're married. What's crazy though is the first, like that front of the pack, like 1 through 4 or 5 was really close. And like I said, it was like teams that you wouldn't maybe necessarily expect. So I really think it's hard to predict what's going to happen this season.
For sure.
Last place was siblings Maya and Rohan, and they just could not get their grip.
No.
They struggled so hard.
I think the driving was there. Well,
yeah.
There was the one point where they went down the wrong alley.
Yeah.
It was like a dead end. And they had to back up, and it was too. They should have just backed up all the way, but they tried to do that like point and turn, except it wasn't enough room for them to actually do it. I want to know how long it actually took them.
I know, I'm curious. Well, and here's the funny thing is, like, sometimes they get maps or some kind of, like, tools of help, I guess, with navigation. They had no maps this time.
Yeah.
And then also it's the start of the race, so I'm sure you're kind of anxious and excited and all these other emotions.
And that map thing probably hurt them, because a lot of them have struggled with driving in this first episode.
Yeah, well, and that was the thing. It was like, it was a mix of they couldn't figure out where they were going, and they couldn't figure out how to park there. It was just like they were doomed from the start.
Right.
So they unfortunately did come in last. I did speak with the team, so we'll show that later in the show. But like I said, overall, I think this is actually going to be a really good good season.
I'm excited for the season.
It seems really exciting. They'll continue traveling through the Caribbean, and then they'll also go to South America. We mentioned last week they're going to go to Rihanna's home in Barbados, which is exciting. They've never been to Barbados before. So I don't know. Oh, actually tonight is Mexico Part 2 because as Phil announced, it's a mega leg, which means the teams that didn't get last are continuing racing. They got the clue and they just kept going.
Wearing them out to start the show.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, if you're going to do this, this is what it's like.
Right.
So, all right. Well, The Amazing Race Wednesdays on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus and Ozarks Live. We'll be right back.